A restaurant kicks out a dirty man, but when Elon Musk lifts his hood, they panic. In the bustling heart of an upscale city district stood Le Chateau, an exclusive fine dining restaurant known for its exquisite cuisine and elite clientele. The owner, Richard Hensley, took great pride in maintaining the restaurant's reputation as a haven for the wealthy and prestigious. He believed that status and appearance defined a person's worth, and this belief permeated every aspect of Le Chateau's operations. On a rainy evening, a disheveled man in a hooded jacket entered the restaurant, seeking shelter and a warm meal. The maitre d', a tall, slender man named Jeffrey, eyed the stranger with disdain. "I'm sorry, sir, but we have a strict dress code," he said, his voice dripping with condescension. "I'm afraid we cannot accommodate you." The hooded man, his face obscured, pleaded, "Please, I'm just looking for a bite to eat. I can pay." Richard, overhearing the exchange, strode over to the entrance, his eyes narrowed. "We don't serve your kind here," he sneered. "This establishment is reserved for our esteemed guests, not vagrants like you." The restaurant fell silent as the patrons turned their attention to the unfolding scene. Some looked on with amusement, while others whispered among themselves, their judgmental gazes fixed upon the hooded man. Laughter echoed through the dining room as the staff forcibly removed the dirty man from Le Chateau. They shoved him into the rain, treating him like a piece of trash to be discarded. The man stumbled, his hood falling back to reveal a glimpse of his face, but no one seemed to recognize him. What the staff and patrons didn't know was that this wasn't just another homeless wanderer. Beneath the tattered clothes and unkempt appearance was none other than Elon Musk, the billionaire entrepreneur and visionary. He had disguised himself as part of a social experiment to test how the privileged treated the less fortunate. As Elon walked away from the restaurant, his heart heavy with disappointment, he encountered a man named Oliver. Oliver, a struggling ex-chef, had once worked in Le Chateau's kitchen before being unfairly fired. The two struck up a conversation, and Oliver shared his painful experiences with the restaurant's cruelty toward the working class. Oliver introduced Elon to others in the community who had suffered similar mistreatment at the hands of Le Chateau's staff. They shared stories of exploitation, discrimination, and elitism, painting a picture of a restaurant that valued wealth and status above all else. Elon listened intently, his mind whirring with ideas. He realized that Le Chateau was a microcosm of a larger societal issue, the growing divide between the haves and the have-nots. He knew he had to take action, to shine a light on the injustice and inspire change. As the rain continued to fall, Elon and Oliver huddled together, discussing plans to expose the restaurant's true nature. They knew it wouldn't be easy, but they were determined to fight for the dignity and respect that every human being deserved, regardless of their financial status. The following day, Elon returned to Le Chateau, but this time, he was not alone. A group of journalists and cameramen accompanied him, their presence causing a stir among the restaurant's staff and patrons. As Elon entered the restaurant, he removed his hood, revealing his true identity. Gasps of shock and disbelief filled the room as people recognized the billionaire entrepreneur. Richard Hensley, the owner, stood frozen in place, his face turning pale as he realized the gravity of the situation. Elon addressed the crowd, his voice calm but firm. "Yesterday, I came to this restaurant seeking a meal and was treated with contempt and cruelty. I witnessed firsthand the discrimination and elitism that plagues our society, and I cannot stand idly by while others suffer." The cameras flashed, capturing the moment for the world to see. Elon's words reverberated through the restaurant, and the staff and patrons shifted uncomfortably in their seats, the weight of their actions suddenly bearing down upon them. In the days that followed, the story of Elon Musk's experience at Le Chateau spread like wildfire. Media outlets across the globe reported on the billionaire's social experiment and the restaurant's shameful behavior. The public outcry was immense, with people from all walks of life expressing their disgust and disappointment. Richard Hensley found himself at the center of a PR nightmare. Calls for boycotts and protests outside the restaurant grew louder with each passing day. The once proud owner now faced the consequences of his arrogance and the cruelty exhibited by his staff. As the pressure mounted, Richard realized that he had a choice to make. He could either double down on his elitist beliefs and risk losing everything, or he could seek redemption and attempt to make amends for the harm he had caused. Elon Musk, meanwhile, saw an opportunity to create meaningful change. He reached out to Oliver and the other members of the community who had been mistreated by Le Chateau, inviting them to be part of a new initiative. Together, they began to plan a series of events and workshops aimed at promoting empathy, inclusivity, and respect for all individuals, regardless of their socioeconomic status. They hoped to inspire a shift in mindset, not just within the restaurant industry, but across society as a whole. As word of the initiative spread, more and more people came forward to share their stories and offer their support. The movement gained traction, and soon, it had become a catalyst for change, sparking conversations and actions that extended far beyond the walls of Le Chateau. Back at the restaurant, Richard Hensley struggled with the weight of his decisions. He watched as his once loyal customers abandoned him, and his staff began to question their own actions and beliefs. In a moment of clarity, Richard realized that he had been wrong. He had allowed his pride and prejudice to cloud his judgment, and in doing so, he had caused immeasurable harm to others. He knew that if he wanted to salvage what was left of his reputation and his business, he would need to make a sincere effort to change. Richard reached out to Elon Musk and Oliver, expressing his desire to make amends and be part of the solution. Though initially skeptical, Elon and Oliver saw the sincerity in Richard's words and agreed to give him a chance. Under the guidance of Elon and Oliver, Richard began to transform Le Chateau from the inside out. He implemented new policies and training programs that emphasized empathy, respect, and inclusivity. He invited members of the community to share their experiences and ideas, listening with an open heart and a willingness to learn. Slowly but surely, the restaurant began to change. The staff, once cold and dismissive, now greeted every guest with warmth and kindness. The menu evolved to include affordable options alongside the high-end dishes, ensuring that everyone could enjoy a meal at Le Chateau, regardless of their financial means. As the changes took hold, the community began to take notice. People who had once been turned away now found a welcoming space within the restaurant's walls. The initiative that Elon and Oliver had started was bearing fruit, and Le Chateau had become a shining example of what was possible when people chose to lead with compassion and understanding. Months passed, and the impact of the changes at Le Chateau continued to ripple outward. The restaurant had become a hub for community gatherings and events, a place where people from all walks of life could come together and share in the joy of good food and good company. Elon and Oliver, now close friends and partners in their mission, watched with pride as their vision for a more inclusive and compassionate society began to take shape. They knew that there was still much work to be done, but they were heartened by the progress they had made and the lives they had touched. As they sat in Le Chateau one evening, enjoying a meal together, Elon turned to Oliver and said, "You know, when I first walked into this restaurant, I never could have imagined that it would become a catalyst for such profound change. But I've learned that sometimes, the most unlikely places can hold the greatest potential for transformation." Oliver nodded, a smile spreading across his face. And to think, it all started with a simple act of kindness, a willingness to see the humanity in others, even when the world tells us to look away. As the story of Le Chateau's transformation spread, it inspired others to take action in their own communities. People began to look at the world around them with new eyes, seeing the potential for change and the power of compassion. Small acts of kindness, once overlooked, now took on new meaning. A smile, a kind word, a helping hand, these seemingly insignificant gestures had the power to change lives and reshape entire communities. Elon and Oliver watched as their message of hope and unity spread beyond the city limits, touching hearts and minds across the globe. They knew that they had started something bigger than themselves, something that would continue to grow and flourish long after they were gone. As the months turned into years, Le Chateau continued to thrive, a beacon of hope and inclusivity in a world that often felt divided and uncertain. Richard Hensley, now a changed man, worked tirelessly to ensure that the restaurant remained true to its new values, never again allowing pride or prejudice to cloud his judgment. Elon and Oliver, their friendship stronger than ever, continued to inspire and guide others on their own journeys of transformation. They spoke at conferences and events, sharing their story and the lessons they had learned along the way. And though the road ahead was not always easy, they knew that they had the strength and the support of a community that had been forever changed by their actions. They had shown the world that true worth was not found in wealth or status, but in the way we treated others, especially those who seemed to have nothing. Years later, as Elon and Oliver sat in Le Chateau, now a beloved institution in the city, they reflected on the journey that had brought them to this moment. They marveled at the way a single act of kindness, a simple choice to see the humanity in others, had set in motion a chain of events that had transformed not just a restaurant, but an entire community. Around them, the restaurant buzzed with life and laughter. Families, friends, and strangers alike gathered to share in the joy of good food and good company, no longer divided by the artificial barriers of wealth and status. Elon and Oliver knew that their work was far from over, that there would always be more hearts to touch and more minds to open. But they also knew that they had planted a seed, a powerful idea that would continue to grow and flourish long after they were gone. As the sun began to set outside the windows of Le Chateau, Elon and Oliver raised their glasses in a toast. They drank to the power of compassion, to the resilience of the human spirit, and to the countless lives that had been changed by their actions. They knew that the story of Le Chateau would be told for generations to come, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there was always hope, always the potential for transformation. And as they looked around the restaurant, at the faces of the people they had come to know and love, they knew that they had found something far more valuable than wealth or status. They had found a community, a family, and a sense of purpose that would guide them for the rest of their lives. In the end, the story of Le Chateau was not just about a restaurant, or even about the two men who had fought so hard to change it. It was about the power of the human spirit, the capacity for growth and redemption that lies within us all. It was a reminder that no matter how lost or broken we may feel, there is always a way forward, always a chance to make a difference in the world. As Elon and Oliver stepped out into the night, the city lights twinkling above them, they knew that their journey was just beginning. There were more hearts to touch, more minds to open, and more communities to transform. But they also knew that they had already achieved something remarkable, something that would endure long after they were gone. They had shown the world that true worth is not found in wealth or status, but in the way we treat others, especially those who seem to have nothing. And in that simple truth, they had found a message of hope and transformation that would guide them and countless others for years to come. In the weeks and months that followed, Elon and Oliver found themselves inundated with requests for interviews and speaking engagements. The story of Le Chateau had captured the hearts and minds of people around the world, and everyone wanted to hear more about the two men who had sparked such a profound transformation. At first, Elon and Oliver were hesitant to step into the spotlight. They had never sought fame or recognition, and they worried that the attention would distract from their true mission. But as they listened to the stories of those who had been inspired by their actions, they began to understand the power of their platform. They spoke at schools and community centers, sharing their message of hope and compassion with young people who were just beginning to navigate the complexities of the world. They met with business leaders and politicians, urging them to prioritize empathy and inclusivity in their decision-making. And through it all, they remained grounded in the values that had brought them together in the first place. They knew that the true measure of their success was not in the accolades they received, but in the lives they touched and the communities they transformed. As the years passed, Le Chateau continued to evolve and grow. Richard Hensley, now a vocal advocate for social justice, used his platform to raise awareness about issues of inequality and discrimination. He partnered with local organizations to provide job training and support services for those who had been marginalized by society. The restaurant itself became a model for inclusivity and sustainability. They sourced their ingredients from local farmers and producers, supporting the local economy and reducing their environmental impact. They implemented fair wage policies and provided opportunities for advancement for all of their employees, regardless of their background or experience. And through it all, the spirit of community that had been born in those early days continued to thrive. Guests from all walks of life came together to share meals and stories, to celebrate their differences and to find common ground. It was a testament to the power of small acts of kindness, to the ripple effect that a single moment of compassion could have on the world. Elon and Oliver, now in their later years, looked back on their lives with a sense of deep gratitude and fulfillment. They had never set out to change the world, but through their actions and their example, they had inspired a movement that had touched countless lives. They had seen the power of empathy and compassion to break down barriers and build bridges between people who had once seemed impossibly divided. They had witnessed the transformation of individuals and communities, the unleashing of potential that had been dormant for far too long. And though the world was still far from perfect, they knew that they had played a small but vital role in bending the arc of history towards justice and equity. As they sat together in the gardens of Le Chateau, surrounded by the laughter and chatter of the guests who had become like family to them, they knew that their legacy would live on long after they were gone. In the end, the story of Le Chateau was a reminder of the incredible resilience and potential of the human spirit. It was a testament to the power of small acts of kindness and compassion to transform not just individuals, but entire communities and societies. Elon and Oliver had shown that true leadership was not about wealth or power, but about the willingness to see the humanity in others and to work tirelessly to create a world in which everyone had the opportunity to thrive. Their legacy lived on in the countless lives they had touched, in the generations of young people who had been inspired by their example, and in the enduring spirit of hope and unity that they had helped to cultivate. And as the sun set over the city, casting a warm glow over the gardens of Le Chateau, it was clear that their story was not just a tale of two men, but a reminder of the incredible power of the human spirit to overcome even the greatest of challenges and to create a better world for all. To truly understand the significance of Elon and Oliver's journey, one must first delve into their personal backgrounds. Elon, born into a life of privilege, had always been acutely aware of the disparities that existed between the haves and the have-nots. Despite his wealth and success, he had never lost touch with his sense of empathy and his desire to make a positive impact on the world. Oliver, on the other hand, had grown up in a working-class family, watching his parents struggle to make ends meet. He had discovered his passion for cooking at a young age, seeing it as a way to bring joy and comfort to those around him. When he had been fired from Le Chateau, it had been a crushing blow, not just to his career, but to his sense of self-worth. Their meeting outside the restaurant that fateful night had been a turning point for both men. Elon had seen in Oliver a kindred spirit, someone who understood the injustices of the world and was determined to do something about them. And Oliver had seen in Elon a beacon of hope, a reminder that change was possible even in the face of seemingly insurmountable odds. As Elon and Oliver began to implement their vision for a more inclusive and compassionate Le Chateau, they faced resistance from some quarters. One of the most vocal opponents was a longtime patron named Victoria, a wealthy socialite who had always enjoyed the restaurant's exclusive atmosphere. Victoria saw the changes as a threat to her way of life, a rejection of the values she held dear. She rallied a group of like-minded individuals to boycott the restaurant, hoping to pressure Richard into reversing course. But Elon and Oliver refused to back down. They met with Victoria and her supporters, listening to their concerns and trying to find common ground. They explained that the changes at Le Chateau were not about excluding anyone, but about creating a space where everyone could feel welcome and valued. Slowly but surely, Victoria began to see the error of her ways. She realized that her attachment to the old Le Chateau had been based on a narrow-minded view of the world, one that prioritized status and wealth above all else. And as she watched the restaurant transform before her eyes, she couldn't help but be inspired by the power of compassion and empathy to bring people together. One of the most heartening aspects of Le Chateau's transformation was the impact it had on the restaurant's employees. Among them was a young woman named Maria, who had started working at the restaurant as a dishwasher, hoping to save enough money to pursue her dream of becoming a chef. Under the old regime, Maria had often felt invisible and undervalued, her contributions going unnoticed and unappreciated. But as the culture at Le Chateau began to shift, she found herself being given new opportunities to learn and grow. With the support and encouragement of Elon, Oliver, and the rest of the staff, Maria began to take on more responsibilities in the kitchen. She attended workshops and training sessions, honing her skills and developing her palate. And as her confidence grew, so too did her passion for cooking. In time, Maria became a symbol of the positive impact that Le Chateau's transformation had on the lives of those who worked there. Her story inspired others to pursue their dreams, no matter how difficult the path might seem. And it served as a reminder that when people are given the opportunity to thrive, they can achieve incredible things. As word of Le Chateau's transformation spread, Elon and Oliver found themselves being invited to speak at events and workshops around the city. They used these opportunities to share their message of hope and compassion, and to inspire others to take action in their own communities. One of the most impactful events they organized was a series of cooking classes for underprivileged youth. They partnered with local schools and community organizations to provide free training in culinary skills, nutrition, and healthy eating habits. The classes were a resounding success, with dozens of young people learning valuable life skills and discovering a passion for cooking. Many of them went on to pursue careers in the food industry, inspired by the example set by Elon, Oliver, and the team at Le Chateau. But the impact of these events went beyond just the individuals who participated. They sent a powerful message to the wider community that everyone deserved access to healthy food, regardless of their background or circumstances. And they sparked a conversation about the role that restaurants and other businesses could play in promoting social justice and equity. As the months passed, the ripple effects of Le Chateau's transformation began to be felt throughout the city. Other businesses and organizations, inspired by the example set by Elon and Oliver, began to adopt similar practices of inclusivity and compassion. A local coffee shop started offering free meals to those in need, no questions asked. A clothing boutique began donating a portion of its profits to support job training programs for the homeless. And a group of artists and musicians organized a series of free concerts and exhibitions, using their talents to bring people together and celebrate the diversity of the community. These actions, small and large, began to add up, creating a sense of momentum and possibility that was impossible to ignore. And at the center of it all was Le Chateau, a shining example of what was possible when people came together in the spirit of empathy and understanding. Elon and Oliver watched with pride as their vision for a more just and equitable world began to take shape. They knew that there was still much work to be done, and that the road ahead would not always be easy. But they also knew that they had started something truly remarkable, something that would continue to grow and evolve long after they were gone. And as they looked out over the city, watching the sun set behind the skyline, they knew that they had found their true calling. Not just to run a restaurant, but to use their platform and their influence to make a real and lasting difference in the world. Years later, as Elon and Oliver sat in the gardens of Le Chateau, surrounded by the laughter and chatter of the guests who had become like family to them, they reflected on the incredible journey that had brought them to this moment. They thought back to that fateful night when they had first met, two strangers brought together by a shared sense of injustice and a desire to make things right. They remembered the challenges they had faced, the resistance they had encountered, and the moments of doubt and uncertainty that had threatened to derail their mission. But most of all, they remembered the triumphs, the small victories, and the big breakthroughs that had sustained them along the way. They remembered the lives they had touched, the communities they had transformed, and the legacy they had built. And as they looked out over the city, watching the sun rise on a new day filled with promise and possibility, they knew that their work was far from finished. There would always be more to do, more barriers to break down, more hearts and minds to change. But they also knew that they had planted a seed, a powerful idea that would continue to grow and flourish long after they were gone. And in that knowledge, they found a sense of peace and purpose that would guide them for the rest of their days. For in the end, the story of Le Chateau was not just about a restaurant, or even about the two men who had fought so hard to change it. It was about the power of the human spirit, the capacity for growth and redemption that lies within us all. It was a reminder that no matter how lost or broken we may feel, there is always a way forward, always a chance to make a difference in the world. And that, in the end, is the most powerful message of all.